And we're back, and we're moving into our second conversation for today. Of course, we know when we look at what's happening with the COVID-19 pandemic and the current crisis that we are under, there is an immediate economic effect that people are experiencing. Many are unemployed, some have lost income, some are functioning on
limited budget.
Yeah, a very limited budget. So we asked some financial professionals to give us some tips, and we have Neil Wade, who is a credit officer at St. John's Credit Union, to talk to us about how to tighten up that budget to make the money last a bit longer. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning, Marlene. Good morning, Isani. Good morning, everybody.
Of course, you're working from home, right?
Luckily, I'm working from home this week. As part of our plans to preserve our employees, we have a rotation basis where some employees have to go into the office and some get to stay home.
Okay.
But I'm still working nonetheless.
Okay, that's good to know. So Neil, I'm very sure that you guys have probably had an influx of people coming in to maybe access additional finances or get some money from their own accounts to be able to survive this very trying time.
I agree. Like you said earlier, I mean, we're in an economic crisis. So in that light, I would like to extend sympathies on behalf of our board of directors, our supervisor committee, our credit committee, our management team, and our staff who sympathize with what the country is going through. Currently, like you said, you have some cases where some people have a complete loss of a job, some have a reduced income, and then you have some investors, some owners who are not making any money. So it is a difficult time for everyone.
Yeah.
As an institution, this is one of the reasons why, as we would like to say, we call it the credit union difference, right? It's traditional, and people can tell you from, since we've been in existence since 1946, like all credit unions, we have a fundamental thing whereby in time of need, we are there for our members. So all our members, we have 4 locations, 3 districts: Belize district, the Cairo district, and the San Cruz district. So our members have access to financing and access to whatever relief options we have available for those who have loans or need additional financing.
Okay. So let's talk about what people can do. There's a lot of spending taking place. In fact, when there was the announcement of the state of emergency and then the announcement of the state of lockdown, we saw people racing to the supermarkets and just buying up as much groceries as they can, and it's been a financial burden for many. What's your advice to people as to how to pinch the pennies?
Before I get into the spending, I just want to give one reminder. One of my good co-workers, Mrs. Nelly Wait Usher, she's a loan officer at our main office. She likes to remind me of the importance of savings. And a situation like this is a strong reminder of that you have to save. And one of the founding principles of the Christian movement is about saving for the rainy day, because you never know when the rainy day is going to come. But one thing you can bet on, the rainy day will come. And this present situation is considered a rainy day. So for those members who have been saving consistently, diligently over the years, it's no issue for them to come in and either they can access financing or withdraw from their savings, right? But again, since and agree there has been some panic spending, because you hear all the rumors that the country is going on lockdown. You heard some people with some fake news talking about there will be no cargo coming into the country.
Yeah.
So of course, when you rely on those rumors, you forget about common sense, and so you just jump, and a knee-jerk reaction. But being practical and being realistic, you realize, okay, we have to remain calm. Your normal common sense kicks in, and you realize, okay, we have to try to operate as best as possible nonetheless. So in terms of the spending, and from a financial point of view, again, goes back to the basics: budgeting. And in this case, it's an extreme scenario. We're in a crisis, so we have to, whatever amount of money we do have available, we have to spend wisely, right?
Yeah.
So we go back to the basic. We always recommend having a written budget. It's good to have ideas and stuff in your mind, but at a time like this, you want to put pen to paper. If you don't have, if you prefer paper, you prefer a budget app, but make sure you have something that is documented, right? Again, now as you go through this budget, you want to list items you need, not what you want. Right now, there's no time or no money for no luxurious items. We need to keep it simple. We need to keep it urgent, right?
Let me
Next
ask. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The next thing I recommend is take the budget when you go shopping. Don't rely on memory, especially now when you get into the stores and you already have to wait so long just to get into the store. So you might remember what you might need. You might forget what I told you to buy or what your husband told you to buy. So I'd recommend taking the budget when you go shopping. Also, based on the different circumstances and the curfews and the lockdowns, I would recommend try shopping once a week. It's easier that way. Again, also the shopping once a week allows you to practice social distancing, you know?
Let me ask you this, Neil. This is sort of a preface to what Marlene initially asked. When we realized that COVID-19 was imminent in Belize, a lot of financial institutions started offering loans and access to monies, perhaps at reduced interest rates or little to no interest rate at all. How prudent do you find this to be in terms of persons who are already on half of their salary or people who have perhaps lost employment as a result of this crisis?
That's a very good question, and a lot of thinking has to be, inputted into it from both sides, from the financial institution and from those persons that are affected by this, directly, especially those that are affected negatively, where they don't have a source of income. For our credit union, which is a not-for-profit organization, we are lending money that we hold for other members. So there is no way we can simply give grants. And it would be highly unlikely for even the banks to give grants. At the end of the day, certain institutions are in business to make a profit. Yes, we sympathize and empathize with all those persons affected negatively by COVID. So I think a lot of the banks are offering refinancing at reduced rates. For the businesses, I know they are giving at least 3 months to maybe 6 months of grace period of non-payment on their loans. I know some of the banks are even offering financing to help these businesses to gap and to bridge during this time of no earnings. So it's a situation where everybody has to work together, and I think the institutions are doing their part in terms of trying to assist persons affected by COVID.
Yeah. And it's also, I think one of the things that people are concerned about, if you don't pay a payment in 3 months' time, you still have to pick it up eventually.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of being able to still take care of yourself in the short term, but not lose sight of the long term as well. And that's a challenge. As a credit officer, I'm sure that's kind of what you're trying to bring people to reality, bring that reality to people when you talk to them.
Exactly, because some people are of the impression that we're giving grants. I'm sure if any institution could afford to give grants, they would. But especially for credit unions, being non-profit organizations, we are relying on members' funds to lend to other members. So at some point, we have to provide them with the returns on their investments within the credit union. So again, like I said, we sympathize and empathize with those persons negatively affected by COVID, but it would be difficult to simply give them money during this time.
So here's
right?
a scenario to paint. Here's a scenario to paint, Neil. My observation is that ahead of this thing reaching Belize, driving around, you saw long lines of persons who are waiting to borrow monies, both from the credit union and from other financial institutions. And this is in the context of panic buying, right? So money becomes available to on lend, and persons come in and access those monies. They go into all of these supermarkets and what have you, purchase as many grocery items or whatever as they need, including toilet paper and what have you. But everyone is at home. You have mothers, fathers, kids, etc. People are now cooking 3 meals a day, 3 different meals a day, utilizing all the groceries that they've purchased. And remember, these are persons who, for some have reduced income, and for others have lost income. At the end of the day, that financial responsibility is still there. And these are some of the same people who are now calling and asking for assistance otherwise, because they have spent out the money that they've borrowed and they've consumed those items before really scheduling it out over the month, 2-month period that we're going to be in during this crisis. How do you look at something like that?
And that's a very good reality and a very practical scenario as well, because they are saying we are at home, we have nothing to do, so a lot of people are joking that maybe they'll gain some more weight more than anything else, right?
Yeah.
But again, going back to being prudent, you have to realize, and I mean, it's a lot of inexperience on our part as a country. I mean, it's the first time in our history we're experiencing a global pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, normally we know how to plan for a hurricane, so we know what to do. You know, it's normally maybe a week, 2 weeks we have to plan for, and we're okay after that. But with this global pandemic, it changes the entire ball game, and I think our inexperience as a country and as a people is showing. For example, like you said, we had panic shopping. And for example, you would take your limited resources and buy some items that you might not need for so long.
Yeah.
So that management of the resources was not done properly. Thankfully, I mean, for the persons who are unemployed, they have a higher challenge of maintaining those limited resources that they do have. And I think I pray that this thing doesn't last as long as 2 months, because then what we do. So we, as with you guys with this show and having people like myself come on here and explain that need to remain calm, need to be prudent, and manage those limited resources.
So let's get into some tips for people. What are some of the major financial mistakes that people can make during this time that you'd like to advise against, or ways that they can make, even if it's the 150 unemployment benefit, stretch as much as possible?
Well, I think Isana just touched on the biggest mistakes that we could make. That was the panic shopping.
Okay.
I think after the Prime Minister came out and said that there is no need to worry that cargo will come into the country, that will not stop. So as you know, we are importing country, so we rely heavily on imported goods to feed ourselves. So since that is okay, and we realize that import will still continue, so we can continue, the panic shopping can cease. We can get over that first initial reaction of shopping like crazy.
The sky is falling.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. So now we can calm down, catch our breaths, and like you said earlier, Marlene, we have to prepare for the short term and the long term.
Yeah.
This pandemic will be a marathon, and for those marathon runners, it takes your time, so it's better to pace yourself, and especially for people where we're limited resources, it's going to be challenging. So you guys have to be more prudent in terms of how you spend your money.
Okay, so that's one of the key things that I keep on hearing from you. So I know we feel like we have to go out and purchase a lot of items because we're going to be at home. But 2 things. One, even under the lockdown measures, we're allowed to go and do some shopping at the store. And secondly, with the continued flow of imports, we know that the grocery stores are in fact going to be stocked up as time progresses. So we don't have to spend a lot of money at once, but just You're saying weekly is a good time to buy, with a list, of course?
Yeah, I would recommend weekly, because at the same time you want to practice isolation
Yeah.
and social distancing. You know, I think the best strategy against this COVID is prevention is better than cure.
Yeah.
Especially we don't have a cure. So in order to stay safe, is to keep away from each other for right now. Practice the social distancing, practice the isolation. I mean, thanks to technology, we can still stay in touch.
Yeah.
It's not like we'll be apart totally.
What about running
You know?
up other bills? Because you talk about technology, people are at home, they're using more electricity. Inflatable pools are sold out. People are using more water.
Yeah.
So what we may not realize is that we're actually consuming more and increasing our cost of living in that
Yeah.
meantime.
I agree. Seeing that we're at home, nothing to do. Normally your water bill, your light bill would be at a certain amount because of your consumption. Normally the kids are at school, the parents are at work. But since the roles are reversed, now everybody's at home. We have to monitor those consumption. I mean, literally I try to put my kids on a schedule as it comes to their tablets, because every minute they want to be charging their tablets or their cell phones.
Yeah.
So there is a lifestyle adjustment that we have to take into consideration. Thankfully, some of the utility companies are offering some COVID relief options. So at the same time, we want to maximize those options that they're offering.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have to be mindful that we don't want to overuse them,
Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely something we want to take into consideration. And then the other matter I wanted to ask Neil, some people may be getting a reduced salary and they have other financial obligations. It's very tempting to perhaps take some of the relief from the financial institutions when in fact they may be able to meet some of their payments. What's your advice in terms of which ones you should pay versus which ones you should take advantage of the relief?
Again, it goes to your current situation. Again, you go back to the basics. Your budgeting, you look at your numbers. Again, you try to document it, and then if you're in a position where you don't need the relief, then you don't take it.
Yeah.
Right? And you simply, because your bills need to be paid, your loan payments need to be paid and kept up to par.
Yeah.
Again, life goes on after COVID. So these bills are simply on pause for the short term. But I would advise, if you can afford to pay your loans, then you pay them.
Yeah. All right. Any other advice for people as we wrap up as to how to pinch the pennies as we go through the pandemic?
Take your time, stay calm, catch your breath, pace yourself. Like you said, you want to take care of ourselves in the short term, but at the same time, we want to maintain for the long term.
Yeah.
Spend wisely. I mean, the credit union thing is, we save safely and we borrow wisely.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Neil. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys. Take care, Marlene.
Stay
Danny.
safe.
All right. Thanks. Same to you guys.
All right. So there you have it. How to pinch those pennies. And I know we don't want to think about it.
You kept repeating one very important word, and that is prudence.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to look at what you have in front of you,
Yeah.
budget it properly over the period of time that you will be quote unquote down for, because at the end of the day, bills are still going to be around, very much so.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I got in that final point. I think sometimes, it's easy to think, okay, if I don't have to pay my loan, I won't, so I won't pay for 3 months, but
You'll defer the payment.
you still have to pay it. You're still going to get back to that point where you have to pay it. So if you can right now, go ahead and do so. The same with your mortgage and all. But this situation is really looking at people who've lost jobs, taken a cut sometimes of as much as half of their salary, who really can't make those payments. That's who it's for. Don't just think that you get extra money for the month, because you will pay it eventually.
I think one of the And just a quick point here. What wasn't necessarily said, or perhaps it was, but it wasn't really fleshed out per se, is the fact that this is new to us,
Oh, yeah.
right? So while we have saved for a rainy day, this is a new kind of a rainy day,
Yeah.
which was completely unforeseen. So going forward now, we have to look at how we save for times like these specific unknowns. I think is critical.
Yeah, because we say for a rainy day, not a rainy season, like what this
A
is.
rainy 3 months.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things that Neil said, it's so strange because I also felt that very same urge at the mention of the lockdown that maybe I should go to the supermarket and get some extra stuff. It's just, I guess it's a psychological response in some way that you're going to be restricted, so you should perhaps go and get some more during that time. And then I checked myself and I reminded myself that I did already have enough groceries and that I will be able to go over the next 2 weeks as well. So it takes a moment to just bring that sense of calm back to yourself. But it's natural that we all feel that way.
I'm laughing because one of the immediate things that came to mind was, okay, perhaps I need to get some money and I need to now go and buy $1,000 worth of items, right?
See?
And then I check myself and say, is that really within my means in the immediate, short term? And I said, no. If I still have a job and I'm still collecting my salary, treat with it as you would on a 2-week basis because you'll get paid again. So you don't need to jump ahead of yourself and buy all of these things. You overwhelm yourself in the process of so doing. And at the end of the day, you still have to pay back for it. Right?
And because our only other sense of emergency has been hurricanes, which is a completely different scenario, but with some similarities. So we do stock up for hurricanes, but we don't know what's going to be the aftermath. We don't know about refrigeration. We don't know about opening of stores or access to stores. The difference, and this could be a little silver lining with this one, is that we do know we'll continue to have the inflow of what we need in the supermarket. We will have access. We do have refrigeration, so you can still get your cold stuff and get that in there and do your cooking. So don't feel the need to just go out and extend yourself in a way that you won't have any money in the next few weeks.
And just to wrap up my end here on the matter, you mentioned silver lining, Marlene. When I look at it from a point of view of any modicum of optimism here, is that while we're under a particular crisis, all infrastructure remains intact.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're losing on specific services or physical things, so to speak, right? You could still be able to go to the store when things return to normal. You'll still be able to carry on with your life insofar as perhaps going back to work and doing other stuff, because unlike a hurricane where trees are blown down and roofs come off, you won't have those kind of expenses to deal with. It's only a matter of kind of picking up the pieces proverbially and moving forward.
Yeah, and I don't want to lose sight of the fact that there are a lot of people out there right now who have no income, who have taken a significant cut in their incomes, and that can be scary. We, of course, we will have an update, I'd imagine, on the unemployment benefits and how that rollout is going. It was near 60,000 by the end of last week. I can't imagine, that's a very significant number. And looking forward, I think that we'll have to see how people are doing. But in the meantime, just try to curtail your expenses. And I know it's easy for us to say versus actually doing, but we have to keep in mind that this is going to be for an extended period of time. There may be a few more weeks. We don't know. And so you have to keep that in mind as we move forward. But that's it for the financial segment. We're going to take a break. When we come back, a lot of people at home are going to be looking forward to this. So we have a special segment talking about doing your hair at home. So please stay tuned.